This Week with Bob Mueller on News 2.
This week,
the State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong.
President Biden's first State of the Union comes as Russia invades Ukraine.
Joe Biden is going to go to the floor in just a couple of hours, and he is going to brag about his record.
I'll fight against President Biden's destructive policies and for our Tennessee values every day.
Party line reaction to the president's address from Tennessee's two GOP senators.
I don't appreciate what's going into our libraries. It's not good for our children. And shame on you for putting it there.
Republican state lawmakers claim pornographic books are in school libraries and they're threatening criminal charges against librarians. More in our This Week cover story.
I'm very happy. We're in a safe place too. We appreciate it.
Bob Minton, a Nashville native and Peace Corps volunteer, lived for 3.5 years with his partner in Ukraine. Hear how they fled when Russia invaded. Hello again, and welcome to another edition of This Week. We can tell you that President Biden delivered his first State of the Union address in front of his largest audience of lawmakers in Congress, a sign of the times. The president's primetime speech was dominated by domestic issues like the economy and the COVID pandemic, but also the international crisis sparked by Russia's war in Ukraine. ABC's Faith Abube is on Capitol Hill with more from the president's address.
Tonight, President Biden in his first State of the Union address declaring,
the State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong.
The president walking a fine line between touting his domestic wins and acknowledging the pain of the American people with inflation at a 40-year high eating into their pocketbooks and fatigue setting in more than 2 years after COVID first hit the U.S.
The American Rescue Plan helped working people and left no one behind.
The president dedicating part of his speech to the growing international crisis sparked by Russia's military attack on Ukraine, and then announcing a ban on Russian carriers from U.S. airspace.
Tonight, I say to the Russian oligarchs and the corrupt leaders who bilked billions of dollars off this violent regime, no more.
Congressional Republicans calling on the Biden administration to do more to help Ukraine, citing the Russian war and challenges here at home as the reason they say, quote, the state of our union is in crisis. A year into his presidency, Biden's domestic agenda remains stalled in Congress, including his massive Build Back Better social plan, voting rights legislation, policing, and gun reform.
We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police. Fund them.
Ahead of a midterm battle for control of Congress, President Biden urging lawmakers to rally around a unity agenda. Policies, he says, have historically united everyone on the political spectrum.
And let's get all Americans the mental health services they need. More people can turn for help and full parity between physical and mental health care if we treat it that way in our insurance.
On Capitol Hill, Faith Abube, ABC News.
Tennessee Republican U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn responded to the State of the Union address before the president delivered it.
Inflation is at a record high. Crime like we have not seen in decades. Much of that is because of that open southern border with illegal immigrants coming into this country, cartels that are setting up shop on U.S. soil. Human trafficking, sex trafficking, record numbers, drug trafficking, and American citizens and Tennesseans who are losing their lives. 3,000 Tennesseans last year lost their lives to drug overdoses. Add to this the issue of energy independence. Donald Trump was president, we were energy independent.
Following the speech, Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty joined his fellow Republicans.
Communist China has escalated its harassing posture in the Pacific with an aim to push the U.S. out of the region, endangering democratic Taiwan. And now, Vladimir Putin has launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the largest attack on European soil since World War II. President Biden's speech tonight was a sad attempt to create an illusion of success and false hope, to distract from heartbreaking failures both at home and abroad. Don't mistake this smokescreen for the fog of war that President Biden's policies have precipitated. As your United States Senator, I'll fight against President Biden's destructive policies and for our Tennessee values every day.
Now to our This Week cover story. Weeks after one Tennessee school system banned a graphic novel about the Holocaust from their curriculum, Republicans are now behind an effort to remove books they say have pornography and other obscene content from school libraries. And the hammer, the bill could criminally charge librarians. News 2's Gerald Harris explains what this could mean for schools, educators, and students.
Republican Representative Scott Cepicky is moving forward with the support of his party on a bill to ban library books and criminally punish educators providing access to what they call pornography and inappropriate content in books.
I soon found out there was pornography, obscenity, and profanity in our school libraries and some textbooks.
Victoria Jackson, a former SNL cast member who moved to Tennessee 10 years ago, is among those at the packed criminal justice hearing, making accusations supporting removal of books.
I don't appreciate what's going into our libraries. It's not good for our children, and shame on you for putting it there.
The bill takes a strong-arm approach from the state government to control the content in Tennessee libraries.
The removal of books from a school library may violate students' First Amendment rights if the removal is based on an unconstitutional motivation.
Educators and supporters also packed the room. They say the bill being considered is unconstitutional.
Librarians are always here to work with parents. We welcome this partnership. It's a better use of your time to support the Age Appropriate Materials Act and the State School Library Coordinator Bill.
Democrats say Republicans are taking an authoritarian approach to public schools.
Banning children from access to literature, criminalizing librarians is wrong. I'm offended that my librarians were compared to sex predators and pedophiles lurking around in white vans. That means someone doesn't even know what the bill does and has no idea what a librarian does.
Gerald Harris.
Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment. Welcome back to This Week. I'm pleased to be joined by Bob Minton. Bob is a Nashville native, University of School Nashville graduate, and proud Peace Corps volunteer working in Ukraine until the Russians invaded. Bob and his partner have escaped and are safe in Prague, Czechoslovakia. Welcome, Bob. Really nice to see you. I know everyone here in Nashville is very glad that you and your partner are safe.
Thank you, Bob. I'm very happy we're in a safe place too. We appreciate it.
How have you seen the country change over the last several months when the Russians began mounting their troops on the border to when you decided this is serious, this is dangerous, it's time to go?
Well, in November of 2021, that's when I read the first article that Russian troops are coming to the border. There could be a war in mid-January, mid-February. And I saw that and I freaked out. But most other people weren't. Most people were like, oh, that's not going to happen. Like, Russia always threatens Ukraine. And people were kind of relaxed about it.
What were your thoughts when you saw the incursion begin on the Donbass area when the troops actually crossed the border?
Well, when they entered the Donbass region, which was a couple days before the full-scale invasion happened, I guess it was a very sad day, but I still didn't expect it to be like a full-scale invasion with rockets being fired to even Western Ukraine. So that was a sad day, but when I woke up a couple days later to see that all these towns had been bombed, I was like in complete shock.
It did seem that the Ukrainian government was really downplaying the threat in hopes of it not being real and also not to create a panic. The Western allies, the United States and others were saying, this is serious, this is going to happen. How did you decipher the information to kind of get the true story, hearing kind of both sides of this?
Well, back in April of 2021, Russia did a very similar thing. They stacked a lot of troops at the border and then they left. So at first I was like, okay, this has happened before. There have been conflicts with Russia before, like during the past 8 years, but it didn't stop. And they started transporting blood to the border. They started transporting like medical supplies. You start hearing these things that I didn't hear in 2021 in April. And now they're saying war is going to be happening in 2 days, right? Like it got really the intelligence got really, really serious. And that's when with the help of my mom, I decided to leave.
It seems that most folks in Ukraine were believing a lot what you're just saying, that this really wasn't going to happen, and really did not believe it was going to until the Russian troops really began crossing borders in multiple spots. And then they realized, oh my gosh, this is a real possibility.
Yeah, just from my anecdotal experience, some of my clients said they had heard about it, but they were like, hey, stay calm, right? Because you start panic buying, you start taking money out of the ATMs, and maybe they thought Russia was just trying to make people panic and internally destroy the economy, right? But yeah.
Where were you? Were you in Kyiv? Where were you when you decided it's time to go? And tell us about your journey getting out and making it to Prague, how long it took, how difficult it was. We see currently the backlog on interstates and roads clogged and trains clogged. Was it anything like that? Did you get out relatively easily? You were free, I guess, in mid-February is when you got out?
Yeah, so we left on Valentine's Day. And I actually lived in a town that is 3 miles from the Slovakian border. So we got on a bus. There were 5 people on the bus. And we got to Slovakia in like less than an hour. So it was very calm, and we were like the only bus in line. It was super easy getting out of there.
And then you went on to Prague?
So we were in Slovakia for a week because we thought we were going to return. And we didn't plan on going to Prague until the war started, and my partner, her father has property here, so we didn't want to rent an Airbnb indefinitely. So that's why we came to Prague.
You've been there 3.5 years. I'm sure you have friends and your partner's family and other people. Are many folks still inside Ukraine? Are you communicating with them, working to try to get folks out?
Yes. So I'm communicating with a lot of people who are in Kharkiv and in Kyiv, and everyone's using the same word. It's a living hell, basically. And people are trapped basically because there are evacuation trains that are going out of Kyiv and Kharkiv, but you have to get to the train station, and you could get shot if you leave your house. Basically, we're just spending like all day trying to see who we can help, basically.
We've seen, I think the number they're saying is roughly 500,000, maybe a few more right now, refugees already who have fled Ukraine. You expect there are going to be millions more?
We're already seeing the numbers are up to 660,000, and it's been a week. And the lines at the border, 27 hours, 12 hours, packed with cars. Like it's gonna get a lot worse. That would be my guess.
As you left, did it become frightening? Did the realization that this war could really happen really settle in, and that was part of the reason that you decided to seek safety?
Well, yeah, because it was just it was just most of the time we felt good. Then we read a news article, or then my mom would message me and my dad would message me. And to be honest, they sounded to me, kind of hysterical. I'm like, oh, I've been in Ukraine. I know more than you, basically. But we left, and I remember on the bus ride to Slovakia, we're like, hey, we'll return. This is going to be temporary. But turns out I was wrong.
You're seeing Ukrainians take up arms in defense of their homeland and to fight for freedom. You've seen the president, Zelensky, refusing to leave, the first lady talking about today that they're staying for Ukraine. And these are, while very brave sentiments, and they're having some impact. Do you fear that should Russia decide to do a full-on siege, these brave Ukrainians are really no match for 200,000 Russian soldiers?
The only thing that isn't surprising about this whole conflict is the will of the Ukrainian people. If you know anything about Ukraine, you could guess that they're going to fight until the last drop of blood. That is a phrase I've been hearing a lot. So if Russia ends up taking the capital, if they end up, doing the unthinkable, there's going to be a lot of people, 44 million, who are going to be incredibly angry about that.
What is your thought, Ben? Russia obviously has the might to win this fight if they want to, but the international reaction has been, this is wrong, and they are siding with Ukraine in mass numbers, not just the United States, not just the West. Sweden has come out, Switzerland has come out, different countries in Europe have come out. There's a lot of support. Is that enough to turn the tide, do you think?
Don't ask me, ask Vladimir Putin. He's the one who started this war. He's the only reason this war is happening. How much does he care about the Russian economy? How much does he care about the Russian people? And If I had to guess, I would say not very much. So I'm not sure how much sanctions are going to influence his behavior, but it's been really great seeing the worldwide support.
What are your immediate plans as you and your partner are out now in Prague, as far as staying in the area, communicating with your friends, still continuing to try to get people out of Ukraine? What's the immediate plans for you?
We're going to stay here because her family is still in Ukraine. We want to solve that problem, figure out that situation. Honestly, I don't know what our immediate plans are. I wish I could tell you, but we're going to have to take it week by week.
Do you feel safe? Do you feel like you can weather this as to whatever happens as you watch the progress in Ukraine, as they defend the country, as the Russians take over, whatever happens?
Yeah, I feel physically safe. I'm really scared to see what's going to happen, but my partner is really great and supportive, and I feel safe, but I'm scared of what's going to come.
You went to Ukraine as part of the Peace Corps, as a volunteer for Peace Corps. You're also an author. You have written your book. It's The Peace Corps Slipping on the Ice, a collection of stories from a Peace Corps volunteer in Ukraine. Tell me about some of your stories. Tell me about the work you've done, the people you met, the lives you've changed.
Right. So it's a book about my life in Ukraine during a much more peaceful time. I worked in a school, was working with first graders, 11th graders. And in the book, it's talking about the Peace Corps. It's talking about meeting people on the train, like being invited to their homes, drinking like homemade wine in like their cellar while like Slavic squatting. Like it's kind of like I don't know, it's about me, but it's sort of like I love Ukraine, and I wanted to write about my experience and how great these people are and how great my experiences are. And
a lot of the folks here in Tennessee are so glad you're safe. I know your mother is. Do you have any comments, any words for the people back at your old school, your old city here in Nashville, and your parents?
I'm looking forward to seeing all of you again. It's been a long time, but Nashville's a great community, and I don't know, I just like try to help Ukraine, donate money, like try to do something, because they really need your help. And this tragedy has only just started. So I guess those would be my words.
That was my next question. What can Americans, what can other folks do to help this situation?
Help it with your wallet. There's going to be, they're transporting food and supplies to Ukraine right now, medical supplies. People don't have electricity, like they might start rationing food in the East. Like there are tons of links that I would love to share that people can send money to, and it's just spreading awareness, and not aware, everyone knows about it, but showing your support, going to rallies. But I would say your wallet is the best way you can support Ukraine right now.
Lastly, do you think that most of the Ukrainians, most of Ukraine is surprised that Putin has gone this far and may go even further?
In one word, yes. I think most of my students, most of my clients never thought that this could happen.
Bob Minton, really appreciate your time and your insights. Stay safe. We're thinking all about you. Welcome back. The president's plan to keep the coronavirus at bay is moving forward. The White House COVID response team detailed the next steps to do as the president signaled a new phase in the fight against the virus in his State of the Union address. ABC's Rena Roy has more.
In a maskless chamber during his State of the Union address Tuesday night, President Biden saying the U.S. is now entering a new phase in the coronavirus pandemic.
Thanks to the progress we've made in the past year, COVID-19 no longer need control our lives.
Biden and his COVID response team laying out a plan to move forward, including more free rapid tests for Americans starting next week and a new test to treat program.
To provide individuals access to testing and treatment for free, all in one stop. Hundreds of one-stop sites will open across the country this month.
Federal health officials also keeping an eye on new variants, saying they'll be prepared to administer a variant-specific dose within 100 days if needed.
I can't promise a new variant won't come, but I can promise you we'll do everything within our power to be ready if it does.
As new daily cases and deaths continue decreasing across the country, more areas easing restrictions. Some New York school districts dropping mask mandates today.
I know a lot of people are anti-mask, so at this point, they could do whatever they want. But I'm going to keep my mask on.
I think we need a bit longer with the mask mandate. I truly think it's
not a good idea to lift it, given the fact that some people are still unvaccinated, especially elementary school children. It's just not responsible to do so.
COVID-related hospitalizations are at their lowest point since the Omicron surge began, but hospitalization rates amongst children under 4 are at a pandemic high.
The White House also plans to send 475 million vaccine doses to over 100 countries in hopes of increasing the global vaccination rate and preventing future variants of concern. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment. Thank you for spending part of your weekend with us. That will do it for another edition of This Week. I do want to thank my guest, Nashvilleian and Ukraine evacuee Bob Minton. We'll hope to see you back here next weekend for another edition of This Week. Between now and then, you have a great week.